Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. Everything here is great. Books. I read 2 books over the weekend while I was with my father, and I want to talk about them because I didn't know going in to these 2 books anything about them. One of them I read just to complete a Kindle challenge, and the other one I heard good things about. Turns out they're very similar books. And I want to talk about it because one I give a 5 and one I give a 2. So the first book that I read is called simply Courier by Zoe Rossi or Zoe Rossi. I don't know if people pronounce those Zoe or Zoe, whatever. This book is a novella. It currently has 4 stars on Goodreads with 230 reviews. It's about a man named Bob who is a courier who, well, I can't tell you that yet. It's going to be very difficult to do this video without spoilers, so I'll probably get into spoilers very quickly, but I want to show you the other book. And this book is called This book is called The Housemaid from Frida McFadden, bestseller, an absolutely whatever it said, whatever that said, an absolutely addictive psychological thriller with a jaw-dropping twist. That's what's on the cover of the book. This book is currently rated 4.5 stars on Goodreads with 292,231 reviews. Do you have any guesses on which one I gave 2 stars and which one I gave 5 stars? Any guesses at all? I thought The Housemaid was just bad. All around. Just bad. Just dumb. It's just a dumb book. But here's the thing. And this is going to be... The spoilers are going to start immediately. These are the same book. I didn't know that going into this. The Housemaid I read because there was a Kindle challenge to start a new series. Like... Kindle challenges are these things, you get ribbons, whatever. It's just gamification of reading. I'm okay with that. I like games. So I read this because I saw that it was widely regarded. So I like reading things that are outside my wheelhouse that are widely regarded. The cover of this book says, "From behind closed doors, she sees everything." That never happens once in this story. There's no person in this story who sees anything from behind closed doors. It's not a thing. Doesn't happen. Very interesting. So anyway, I mean, I guess you could say there's cameras, whatever. This doesn't happen. This scenario of looking through a keyhole and seeing stuff doesn't happen. That doesn't. It's not part of the book. Here's the interesting thing. These are the same book. One was written very, very well, very engaging, very interesting. The other was written very poorly, in my opinion. The Courier, Bob, is essentially about a man who delivers packages, and he knows about this house where he hears a man inside yelling and being abusive, and one day he has to deliver a package there, and he does, and he sees a little girl, and he sees a woman who looks completely bedraggled and just giving up on life, and the man was super awesome, like, "Hey, yeah, bro," and then he closes the door, and then he hears the man screaming at the woman or whatever. Bob ends up... This character... You got to read this book. Like, this character... This author, Zoe, whatever, gets it. Gets the dude, like, stalker-ish mentality. Bob goes on to kind of stalk this family, like, builds fake Facebook profiles to befriend the wife, and, I mean, just goes through this whole process to find out that, yes, she is basically being held captive in her own home by an abusive husband who has issues, yada, yada, yada. And the postman ends up... By the way, this is spoilers, right? I told you that. So I highly recommend you read this book, even though I'm going to tell you the whole story. Now, I need to tell you the whole story so I can frame The Housemaid. Because remember, this is the 5-star book. This book was fantastic. Bob ends up killing the husband. Finds out the husband was a junkie. Finds out that she's going away for a weekend to stay with family. Bob sneaks into the house. Bob delivers a package. Like, the guy orders alcohol, so all these packages have to be signed for. Bob takes the bottle and puts a bunch of sleeping pills in it, and ends up delivering. The guy drinks, passes out. Bob goes in, shoots him up with a bunch of heroin. He dies. Whatever. And that's not the end. The end is much different. But basically, from that point forward, Bob has fallen in love with this woman. You know, I've told you, like, this person really gets the male psyche stalker mentality, because I feel like, I can tell you as a male, a lot of the stuff that Bob does is like, yeah, I've kind of, like, I get it. I've never done this stuff. I'm not a stalker. But I get it. Like, and it totally sells, right? As a male reading this book. Bob ends up kind of inserting himself into her life. He finds out she's going to grief counseling, so he makes up a reason to go to grief counseling. They hit it off. Bob has a party, everything, whatever. They end up hooking up. And it all comes down to, she knew exactly what she was doing. She was hoping to get help this way. She knew exactly who Bob was all along. She's like, I knew you were my courier. What do you, like, I knew that you were this Facebook person. Like, that you weren't being sneaky, you didn't hide your IP address. Like, she's like, she reverse stalked him, knew exactly what was happening, and proceeded to make it happen so that she could be free of this monster. And then she kills Bob. Which I don't get. So that part was the last bit was like, was that really necessary? Like, why couldn't she have done that to her husband, right? Like, which now she's got to figure out how to get rid of Bob. Like, I don't know. Weird. Whatever. That was a weird ending, but fine. So The Housemaid. Kind of the same book. It's about this woman who's fresh out of prison, looking for a job, can't find anything, living out of her car, homeless, applies for a live-in housemaid job, thinks she has no chance. As soon as this woman runs a background check, it's a nice, super rich house and whatever, and we're going to do this cooking and cleaning and yada, yada, yada. And she ends up getting the job. When she ends up getting the job, she finds out that her room is in the attic and the locks to the doors are on the outside of her room, which is really super confusing to her. The woman is like bonkers crazy, like tells her to do stuff, and then she tries to do it and then yells at her for doing it, and why I would never tell you to do that. Why would you believe that? Whatever, like throws tantrums, like just an absolute nightmare of a woman. The husband is super loving and whatever, and tries to help, even helps the housemaid clean up after his wife goes crazy, whatever. Yada, yada, yada. Wife goes out of town. Housemaid sleeps with the husband. Wife returns. Husband kicks her out. Surprise. The husband was crazy all along. Locks the housemaid in the room and makes her do a bunch of psychological torture to absolve herself for whatever the heck he thought she did. Or she didn't have her hair brushed or something. I don't know. Something stupid. Come to find out through all of that he had been torturing this woman all these years, like locking her in the room and making her do penance for the simplest of things. And she orchestrated this whole situation. She made herself, she got fat on purpose. She destroyed the house on purpose so that she could hire a housemaid. She looked for a young, attractive female that was at wit's end, like, a person that she could capture essentially. So she knew this convict she should capture. She orchestrated this whole thing, orchestrated her going away, orchestrated the, getting tickets to a show and him taking her to the show. I mean, the whole thing. She orchestrated all of it so that she could get out and get a divorce. And that happens. And then the housemaid ends up killing the husband. Like, it's a whole thing. They're the same book. But the housemaid is this convoluted, just nothing about it is interesting. The characters are boring as all hell. The scenario is completely batshit. Like, it's just, no. Like, none of this is, what? Like, this isn't a thing. It's just bizarre. The whole thing is bizarre. It's just badly written. I mean, it's not badly written. The sentence structure is great. Pacing was fine. Like, the pacing's pretty quick. I did give it 2 stars. Like, it was a readable book. But it's just, the whole premise is just bad. All of it. Oh, there's a gardener, by the way, who knows what's going on in the house. and doesn't say anything, doesn't call the cops. Like, just, it's weird. Like, it's very, very weird. Just not a very good book. But I get it. It's also a little bit about, you know, being a freak, and you know, there's a little you know, like that kind of thing that it's definitely not a sexual book, but there is that, like, oh, I can, you know, I don't. It's that stuff that those kind of readers enjoy. So that's why it has 290,000 reviews and 5 stars. But for me, just a flat dumb book, just dumb. The Courier handled the exact same situation way better. It was way cooler, way more intense, way more thought-provoking. The twist was like, first of all, they put this twist in the title, so you go into this book expecting it. So when I figured it out way ahead, like just miles. There was no twist for me. It was like, yeah, this dude's an asshole. We know that. Like, can we just get to that part? Instead, there kept being all these weird little scenarios that was just really annoying to read. Like, okay, can we just move past all that? We know what's going on here. Let's get to the good part. And it just delays and delays and delays and delays. The story is told a little bit choppily, which was fine, because it kind of pieces the story together as you go. I liked that part of it, but overall, eh. Interesting, though, that I had no idea that these two books were basically the same story, just one told from the male's point of view, an outsider point of view, one told kind of from a live-in female point of view, and yeah, one landed for me, one didn't. And maybe it has to do with my gender. I don't know. But there you go. 2 books. I definitely recommend reading The Courier if you like kind of weird, it's not horror, just psychological books. Check it out. You know anything about these books? Got any comments? Put them down below. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know sounds smart is vignette. It is a noun meaning a brief story, incident, or episode, usually told to illustrate some point. Adding a vignette or two to a speech can help make abstract ideas clearer. Vignette. Vignette. It's kind of spelled like, it's like vinaigrette, but not. That's all I got.